As he arrived at the school, he noticed the young, pretty schoolgirls in their short uniform skirts. A smirk crossed his lips. "I think I will enjoy my time here," he thought. This is the story of Corper Emmanuel, who was sleeping around with students of Delight Girls Secondary School, where he was posted to serve as a corper for his National Youth Service. Emmanuel was born into a life of wealth and luxury. His mother, Madame Rose, adored him more than anything in the world. She gave him whatever he wanted, never letting him feel discomfort. If Emmanuel cried for a toy, she bought two. If he broke something, she blamed someone else. "My son is always right," she would say proudly. But she never realized that she was raising a boy who did not understand right from wrong. One sunny afternoon, Madame Rose's friend, Esther, visited their grand mansion. She noticed how Emmanuel rudely dismissed the housemaids and threw tantrums over small things. "Rose," Esther said gently, "you are spoiling this boy. One day, he will not know how to face the real world." Madame Rose waved her hand dismissively. "Emmanuel will never fail. I will always protect him," she declared. Esther sighed. She had seen boys like this before, and she knew trouble was coming. Emmanuel grew up being a spoilt child because the mother always supported him in whatever he does, be it right or wrong. At 20, Emmanuel still behaved like a child who expected the world to bow to him. One day, Madame Rose returned home to find Loveth, the housemaid, crying in the kitchen. "What is wrong with you?" she demanded, more annoyed than concerned. "Madam," Loveth sobbed, "I am pregnant. Emmanuel got me pregnant." For a moment, Madame Rose stood frozen. Then her expression changed to pure rage. "You are lying," she screamed. "You want to trap my son with your lies." Without hesitation, she called her personal doctor. "Handle this problem immediately," she ordered. Loveth begged and cried, but her pleas fell on deaf ears. As Loveth was taken away, she laid a curse through her tears. "God will punish you, Emmanuel. You and your mother will know no peace." But Madame Rose dismissed it as nonsense. Meanwhile, Emmanuel continued his carefree life, unaware of the damage he had done. Emmanuel grew older and attended the best schools in the country. Not like he is intelligent, but his mother's influence and bribes to different schools and lecturer has gotten him the grades to scale through university. Now, after graduating, he had to participate in the compulsory National Youth Service Corps (NYSC), a requirement for all graduates. When he was posted to Delight Girls Secondary School, he groaned. "Mom, do I really have to go?" he complained. "Yes, my love, just for a year," she said, patting his hand. On the day he left, Madame Rose ensured he had everything he needed: new clothes, a brand new phone, and enough money. As he arrived at the school, he noticed the young, pretty schoolgirls in their short uniforms gown. A smirk crossed his lips. "I think I will enjoy my time here," he thought. The school principal, Mr. Olu, welcomed him warmly. "Welcome, Mr. Emmanuel. I trust your stay here will be both challenging and rewarding." Emmanuel put on his most charming smile. "Thank you, sir. I look forward to making a difference." As he was led to his new classroom, he observed the students' curious glances. Among them were three girls, Favor, Joy, and Sandra. They stood out, their eyes filled with admiration. Emmanuel felt a thrill rush through him. "This is going to be easier than I thought," he mused. But he had no idea how much his life was about to change. Emmanuel quickly became popular among the students. His handsome looks and smooth words made the girls giggle and blush. He loved the attention. He especially enjoyed the way Favor, Joy, and Sandra hung around after class, asking questions just to keep talking to him. He encouraged it, seeing it as harmless fun. One afternoon, after school, Joy waited behind. "Sir, I don't understand today's lesson," she said softly. Emmanuel smiled. "Come, let me explain." He moved closer, pointing at her notebook. She looked up at him, her big brown eyes full of admiration. Emmanuel felt a strange excitement. "You are very smart, Joy," he said, his voice low. She blushed. Unknown to them, Mr. Olu stood outside, watching through the window. His face darkened. He had seen teachers like Emmanuel before. The next day, he called Emmanuel into his office. "Mr. Emmanuel, I see how the girls look at you. Be careful. These are young, impressionable students. Do not take advantage of them." Emmanuel laughed. "Sir, I would never do such a thing. I'm only helping them learn." Mr. Olu's eyes did not leave his. "Good. Because if I catch you misbehaving, you will regret it." Emmanuel left the office, annoyed. "Old man is jealous," he muttered. But he had no idea that trouble was coming his way. Days passed, and Emmanuel became even more reckless. He started exchanging text messages with Joy, sending sweet words that made her heart race. "Sir, you make me feel special," she texted one night. Emmanuel smirked, typing back, "Because you are special. But we must keep this our little secret between us." One evening, after school, he invited Joy to his apartment near the school. "Come, let's just talk," he promised. Joy hesitated, but curiosity and admiration for Emmanuel won. She sneaked out from the girls' hostel and went to see him. At first, they talked and laughed, but soon, Emmanuel held her hand. "You trust me, right?" he whispered. She nodded slowly, and they had fun. While the fun was going on, Joy was shouting, "It's sweet! It's sweet, Uncle Emma, this is very sweet." Just as things were going all rosy, there was a loud knock on the door. "Open up," a voice demanded. Emmanuel's heart stopped. Joy jumped up in fear. "It's Mr. Olu," she whispered. Emmanuel quickly pulled her towards the back door. "Run from the back door." "I will handle this," he said urgently. Joy ran as fast as she could. Meanwhile, Emmanuel wiped his face and opened the door with a forced smile. "Sir, what brings you here?" Mr. Olu's sharp eyes scanned the room. "Where is Joy?" Emmanuel chuckled nervously. "Sir, I don't understand what you mean." Mr. Olu stepped forward. "Emmanuel, I warned you. If I catch you doing anything with any of the students, you will face serious consequences." As he left, Emmanuel swallowed hard. He knew he had barely escaped. But little did he know, his biggest mistake was yet to come. After the whole incident that night, Mr. Olu was determined to catch Emmanuel red-handed. He had seen too many young girls fall victim to teachers who took advantage of them. That night, he called the school's disciplinary committee. "I have received reports of Corper Emmanuel doing things with the students. I won't call it a mere allegation, but we need proof to catch him," he told them. The next day, Joy avoided Emmanuel. She was scared. But Emmanuel sent her a message. "Meet me after school. I miss you." Joy hesitated, then replied, "I can't. Mr. Olu suspects something." Emmanuel frowned. He had to be careful. But his pride would not let him stop. He planned his next move, unaware that someone was watching him closely. The next day, Emmanuel found her alone near the school gate. "Why have you been ignoring me?" he asked, his voice gentle. Joy looked around nervously. "Sir, I don't think we should talk anymore," she whispered. Emmanuel smirked. "You are scared of Mr. Olu, aren't you?" She nodded. Emmanuel reached into his pocket and pulled out a small gift box. "For you," he said. Joy hesitated, then opened it. Inside was a beautiful gold bracelet. "I bought it just for you," Emmanuel said. "I care about you, Joy." She bit her lip. It was the nicest gift she had ever received. "But if Mr. Olu catches us," she started. Emmanuel placed a finger on her lips. "Trust me, he won't." That afternoon, Joy received another message from Emmanuel. "Meet me tonight at my place. It's safe, I promise." She hesitated, but the thrill of the secret relationship pulled her in. She texted back, "Okay, I will come." Then at night, when the whole place looked cool, calm and dark, Joy sneaked out of her hostel and went to Emmanuel's apartment. He welcomed her with a warm smile. "I knew you would come," he said, pulling her inside. Meanwhile, Favor was having second thoughts. She couldn't shake the feeling that something bad was about to happen. She ran to Mr. Olu's office. "Sir, I need to tell you something," she said, her voice shaking. Mr. Olu leaned forward. "What is it, Favor?" She took a deep breath. "It's about Joy and Corper Emmanuel." Favor told Mr. Olu everything, and he was so shocked to learn about this. Mr. Olu wasted no time. After Favor's confession, he knew he had to act fast. He called the school's disciplinary board and shared what he had learned. "We must catch him in the act," he said. Mr. Olu and other teachers in the school marched straight with anger and fury to Emmanuel's apartment to catch him red-handed. Just as Emmanuel and Joy were having fun, they heard a loud bang on the door. "Open up. This is the school disciplinary board." Joy's heart raced. "Oh no," she gasped. Emmanuel jumped to his feet. "Hide in the bathroom," he whispered urgently. The door burst open. Mr. Olu, two other teachers, and a security officer stepped in. Mr. Olu's sharp eyes scanned the room. "Where is Joy?" Emmanuel laughed nervously. "Sir, I live alone." Just then, a soft sound came from the bathroom. Mr. Olu's eyes darkened. He signaled the security officer, who pushed the door open. There stood Joy, trembling, tears running down her face. Emmanuel's face turned pale. "This time, you won't escape," Mr. Olu said sternly. Emmanuel knew his life was about to change forever. Caught red-handed, Emmanuel had no excuse. The school launched an investigation over the matter, and questioned all the girls that they have seen around Emmanuel, and it was discovered that he had impregnated 3 different girls in the school and forced them into inducing the pregnancy. But luckily for Joy, she was safe. The school expelled him and reported him to the National Youth Service Corps Commission through the NYSC complaints portal, and he was suspended from serving the country. His mother, Madam Rose, tried to cover it up, but this time, even her influence could not save him. Emmanuel's life crumbled before his eyes. His past mistakes had finally caught up with him, and there was no escape. With his reputation destroyed, Emmanuel returned home in shame. His mother tried to console him, but even she could not fix the damage. His former friends avoided him, and no school or firm would hire him because he is supposed to complete his National Youth Service Corps program to be eligible to work. Out of desperation, he turned to alcohol and drugs, drowning his regrets in endless bottles. Despite Emmanuel's public disgrace, his mother, determined to see him succeed, used her influence to secure him a prestigious job at a major oil company. With a handsome salary and a second chance at life, one might expect Emmanuel to learn from his past mistakes. But instead, he saw it as a validation that he was untouchable. He threw himself into a life of excess, lavish parties, exotic vacations, and endless nights with different women. Friends warned him to slow down, that luck wouldn't always be on his side. But Emmanuel laughed at their concerns, believing himself destined for wealth and pleasure. One evening, at an exclusive nightclub, he met Aisha. She was unlike any woman he had ever encountered. Elegant, mysterious, with an air of quiet confidence. She spoke little of her past but listened intently to his every word, making him feel invincible. Emmanuel pursued her relentlessly, showering her with gifts and affection. But Aisha was no ordinary woman. She had a past riddled with pain, betrayal, and a chilling secret she dared not reveal. What he did not know was that Aisha had been abandoned, betrayed and infected with HIV by a wealthy man like him in the past, and she had vowed to teach men like Emmanuel a painful lesson. One fateful night, as they lay together in an expensive hotel suite, Aisha whispered, "Some choices have consequences, Emmanuel." He laughed, dismissing her words as meaningless pillow talk. He had no idea that Aisha is sounding a warning to him. They had fun through the night and enjoyed themselves. Months passed, and Emmanuel fell sick. His vibrant energy began to fade. At first, he dismissed his constant fatigue, unexplained fevers, and rapid weight loss as mere stress. But when he started developing sores and night sweats, panic set in. After multiple hospital visits, the doctor finally delivered the devastating news. He had contracted HIV. The doctor announced the result to him. "Emmanuel, you are HIV positive." At first, he refused to believe it. How could someone like him, wealthy, powerful, and untouchable, fall victim to such a fate? As his condition worsened, Emmanuel tried reaching out to Aisha to demand answers, but she had vanished without a trace. It was then he remembered an eerie conversation they once had, how she spoke of men who had wronged her in the past, how she had suffered at the hands of betrayers. A cold realization crept into his mind. Had she known all along? Had she been the one to seal his fate? Had he played a game he could never win? All this and many more thoughts were just running through his head. He felt the sickness is what money can reverse due to his upbringing as a spoilt child. He spent fortunes seeking miracle cures, visiting specialists, and bribing doctors to reverse his fate. But money could not buy his health back. As his health deteriorated, his so-called friends vanished. The women who once clung to him for his wealth refused to visit. Even his mother, who had once fought so hard for him, could no longer look at him without sorrow in her eyes. He had everything, yet he had nothing. His wealth dwindled. His once pristine home became a lonely prison. Looking in the mirror, he barely recognized the gaunt, hollow-eyed man staring back at him. By the time a year passed, Emmanuel was a shadow of himself. His breath grew weaker, his vision blurred, thin, frail, and forgotten. Alone in a dimly lit hospital room, he stared at the ceiling, recalling his past arrogance, his reckless choices, and the warnings he had ignored. In his final moments he whispered, "I was given a second chance, and I wasted it." His downfall had not been sudden. It had been years in the making, a consequence of his choices. And with that final thought, he exhaled his last breath. Then, silence. Emmanuel paid the price of his reckless life. Madame Rose, now disgraced and abandoned by her wealthy friends, sat alone in her once grand mansion. She wept for her son, but deep inside, she knew she was the one who had failed him. Reckless choices have lasting consequences. Arrogance and a disregard for wisdom can lead to one's downfall. True success is not just about wealth and pleasure, but about responsibility, humility, and making wise decisions. Emmanuel was given a second chance, yet he wasted it by indulging in his old habits. His story teaches us that no matter how many opportunities life gives, if one refuses to change, they will ultimately face the consequences of their actions.